Now let's face it, when it comes to pop culture icons, more often than not, the name that gets mentioned quite a bit is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Simply put, this was a worldwide pop culture phenomenon, and it's seldom ever been matched or beaten save for a select number of franchises. These guys were prominent during my childhood, they were prominent in my teens, and yes, even in my adulthood. From the video games, the action figures and the cartoons and any other TMNT memorabilia, you name it, I had it. Even the cereal. Previously on the subject of the Turtles, I talked about Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. Now today it's the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie which I discuss. And it's my favourite of all the TMNT movies ever made. And that includes the Michael Bay ones. Did not like the first Bay movie, and I didn't even bother watching the second. If you're a die-hard fan of the Turtles, then you know the whole plot of the movie like the back of your hand. The movie opens up to reporter April O'Neil reporting about a huge crime wave that has New York City firmly in its grip, and is of the belief that it's the cause of an underground group of ninja thieves called the Foot. After her day is done, she heads back to her van where she's ambushed by some street thugs. Cue the ninja sign being thrown, the lights go out, there's a scuffle, the lights are back on, and the thugs are all tied up and April has been saved. She spots the sign on the floor, picks it up whilst a shadowy figure appears from beneath the sewers, before going back and uttering the word. The movie centers on the turtles who are transformed from ordinary pets into humanoid creatures along with a rat, who becomes their master Splinter and teaches them the ways of the ninja. As events unfold throughout the movie, the turtles are forced into taking the training and using it as a means of survival, whilst taking on the Foot Clan and making allies along the way, and in the process they become fully fledged ninja heroes. I don't need to tell you the turtles' names, so Splinter, could you help me out please?
Leonardo, Michaelangelo,
It's me.
Donatello, and Raphael.
The first half of the movie seems to focus on Raphael quite a bit. He has anger issues which Splinter is trying to help him quell. He is of course not happy about losing his sai. He later runs into vigilante Casey Jones, and the two of them trade very painful wallops.
I'll teach you.
I can remember the audience in the cinema gasping at that very shot. Then later he saves April from an attack by foot ninjas sent by their leader to silence her about reporting on the group. Somewhere along down the movie, Splinter is then kidnapped by the Foot, and Raphael seems to take it the hardest. After an argument with Leonardo, he goes off in a huff to the rooftop, where he's then ambushed by the Foot and beaten unconscious. This leads to a fighting sequence which sees the other turtles fight on screen for the very first time in the movie. Casey Jones, after initially spotting Raph on the rooftop, appears in the fight to aid the turtles and April and help them escape. At the retreat, Raph has recovered, he has a heart-to-heart with Leo, and the four turtles are a group again. So like I said, it certainly felt like the first half of the movie Raphael was the main focus. I remember as a kid being very confused as to who the leader of the group was. We all know universally it is Leonardo, but in the song Turtle Power by Partners in Crime, I heard this. I would have this argument with friends for a while, but after watching the cartoons and being told by my older sibling that the mention of Raph as leader was more of a case of what lyrics sounded better. They could have just swapped Leo and Raph around, you know.
Michaelangelo, and Donatello. Make up the team with one other fellow, Leonardo. He's the leader of the group, transformed from the norm by the nuclear group.
See? Fixed it. Then there are the other turtles. Leonardo, the straight-faced leader, and then rounding it off with both Michaelangelo and Donatello. They seem to be the besties in this group as we see them paired together for a good chunk of the movie. Mikey is the party animal, as is the folklore with the Turtles history, and Donnie is the brains of this group. But that doesn't really seem to be the case in this particular movie. He just appears more as Mikey's sidekick as opposed to the techno-whiz that he's usually known for. April O'Neil and Splinter are canon in the world of the Turtles. April's introduction to the movie was already mentioned. After being ambushed by the Foot and rescued by Raphael, she is at the Turtles' lair. She recovers and has a very hilarious reaction to seeing the Turtles and Splinter for the first time.
Hi.
All is well after that little exchange, and Splinter explains the origins. Splinter, as we all know, is the mentor of the Turtles, but for a large majority of this movie he spent in captivity after the Foot discovered the Turtles' lair. I'll get to Splinter on in a minute. I've already mentioned Casey Jones, who ends up having quite the rapport with April. He's a vigilante who fights crime and keeps his ID secret with a hockey mask. Then we move on to the big baddie of the movie, the Shredder. I mean, before Thanos on the MCU movies, there was Shredder. He is the menacing leader of the Foot Clan, and he's created a secret society of misfit teens who he recruits into his operations and has them trained up to become ninja warriors, led by his right-hand man Tatsu. Shredder is helped by a young teen misfit named Danny, who is the son of April's boss. Danny accidentally discovers the Turtles at April's apartment and ends up telling the Shredder. Cue the chaos that ensues. After all this, Danny would feel remorse for his actions. As the movie goes along, it turns out Splinter knows far more about the Shredder than he lets on. In a flashback, Splinter explains his origins to young Danny, whom he's become acquainted with, that Splinter was just a normal pet rat to his master Hamato Yoshi. He had a rival named Oroku Saki, and he lost out to him for the love of a woman. Jealous and enraged, Saki took his revenge and killed both the woman and Yoshi. Splinter, then a small rat, had his ear sliced off by Saki and is left to mourn his dead master. Splinter knows that Saki and the Shredder are the same person, and this leads to a very excellent confrontation towards the end of the movie. Back to the Turtles. Fearing Splinter is forever gone, a meditating Leonardo discovers that he is still alive. He tells the others, who are initially skeptical, but after a meditation ritual, Splinter speaks to all four of them, and the Turtles head back to the city to plan a confrontation with the Foot. This is where I personally felt the Turtles became of age. Upon returning to the lair, young Danny was found hiding out. He later leaves the sewers and heads back to the Foot, with Casey Jones in very hot pursuit. Danny and Casey end up rescuing Splinter, but not before having to deal with Tatsu in a confrontation that leads to another gasp out moment. Oof. All the while, the Foot have re-entered the Turtles' lair. However, this time the boys in green are ready for them in a frantic final showdown with the Foot. And this climaxes with the Turtles facing off against the Shredder. It's incredible how easily he overpowers them despite their best efforts. Just as it seems Leonardo is about to meet his demise, Splinter reappears and all is revealed. With the Shredder defeated, the Foot falls apart, the base of operations is given up to the police. Danny makes amends with his dad, April gets a promotion after being rehired and ends up with Casey, and the Turtles and Splinter are reunited, and the movie ending on that very famous catchphrase of theirs.
Cowabunga.
It's been over 30 years, 3 decades, since this movie first came out, and it really does stand the test of time. The whole feel of the movie is dark and gritty, with some light-hearted moments sprinkled throughout. The fight scenes are a lot of fun and very action-packed. I must have watched this movie over 1,000 times as a young kid, and several hundred times as an adult, as I can remember most of the lines. It's amazing to think that with all the other movies that have come out since, that this movie is still considered to be the best movie the Turtles have ever made. Given that it was an independent movie and not made by the usual massive Hollywood studios, it was quite the achievement for it to have grossed over $200 million at the box office. The movie was my introduction to the Turtles, and following the movie there was a trailer for the '87 cartoon show. This would further cement my love for the Turtles, and as stated at the offset of this video, I was fully immersed in all TMNT memorabilia. At some point I will be looking at the cartoon. As an added bonus, I really grew to love pizza. I think you get the gist. The movie tells a very fluid and coherent story from beginning to end, and borrows influences from the '84 comic books on which it was based on. The turtle suits used from the late Jim Henson gave the movie that unique look, and this look has never been followed up on any of the movies that have come ever since. The look is somewhat replicated in the Injustice 2 video game which the Turtles guest star in. The downside was the movie was considered too violent from very picky parents, and as a result the action was notably and horrendously turned down for the sequels. And just to make matters worse, the UK version had any scenes involving Michelangelo's nunchucks cut out completely and replaced with different footage. The UK felt that his weapons were just too violent, as opposed to Leonardo, who has, razor sharp katana blades. The movie will forever be a reminder from my childhood about just how awesome times were. There is a reason successful franchise movies from the 80s and the 90s are constantly being rebooted, some with varying degrees of success. TMNT is just one of them, so overall, to sum it all up, it was a great fun movie that introduced me to the Turtles, and a movie that will live on for years and generations to come. Take it away, boys.